In the annals of civilizational self-sabotage, few stories capture the grotesque irony of progressive ideology, quite like that of Melanie, a 39-year-old left-wing activist and Green Party member in Germany. In the summer of 2016, amid the flood of migrants pouring into Europe under Angela Merkel's open-door policy, Melanie was brutally raped by a group of young Syrian asylum seekers in a public park in Berlin. The assault was savage. She was beaten, violated, and left traumatized. Yet in the immediate aftermath, when police pressed for details, Melanie lied. She claimed her attackers were white Germans who spoke flawless German, insisting it was merely a robbery gone wrong. Only months later, racked by guilt and the weight of her deception, did she confess the truth to Der Spiegel. She had fabricated the story to shield the narrative of multiculturalism, fearing that the unvarnished facts would fuel xenophobia and right-wing populism. In her own words, she didn't want to make it harder for other refugees. This is not mere personal folly. It is the distilled essence of what we might call suicidal empathy, a pathological altruism that has infected the progressive West, particularly its white female vanguard. Melanie's lie wasn't born of ignorance, but of a deep cultural capture, a worldview so marinated in anti-racism dogma that it compelled her to betray her own victimhood for the sake of an abstract ideal. She sacrificed her dignity, her credibility, and, by extension, the safety of countless other women, all to preserve the illusion that mass immigration from incompatible cultures poses no threat. It's a microcosm of the insanity. Progressives, in their zeal to atone for the sins of colonialism and whiteness, have erected a moral framework that punishes truth-telling and rewards self-erasure. In Germany, this played out on a grander scale during the Cologne New Year's Eve assaults of 2015, where hundreds of women were groped, molested, and raped by predominantly North African and Arab migrants. The media and authorities initially downplayed the ethnic dimensions, with outlets like Süddeutsche Zeitung burying the story under euphemisms lest they be accused of Islamophobia. The result? A city in shock, trust in institutions shattered, and a surge in support for parties like the AfD, which the very elites, Melanie sought to placate now decry as fascist. The pattern of civilizational decline often unfolds not through external conquests but internal rot, a rot fueled by elites who, detached from the gritty realities of their own societies, prioritize performative virtue over survival. Think of the late Roman patricians who welcomed barbarian foederati into their borders as cheap labor and allies, only to watch as those same guests sacked their cities from within. Or the Qing dynasty mandarins whose Confucian humanism blinded them to the barbarian hordes at the gates. Today's white progressives, disproportionately women, as the data on DA advocacy and CRT enthusiasm bears out, echo this pattern. Surveys from Pew and YouGov consistently show that college-educated white women are the most fervent supporters of policies like unrestricted migration and affirmative action, even as they bear the brunt of the consequences. Rising crime rates in sanctuary cities, the erosion of women's spaces in the name of trans inclusion, and a cultural landscape where punching up at the West means gutting its foundations. This suicidal empathy manifests most acutely in women, not out of biological predisposition alone, but because feminism has been hijacked into a masochistic creed. Third wave intersectionality preaches that white women must check their privilege by amplifying marginalized voices, even if those voices advocate for Sharia patrols in London suburbs or honor killings in immigrant enclaves. It's no coincidence that the architects of CRT, like Robin DiAngelo and Ibram X. Kendi, frame whiteness as an incurable pathology, urging white allies, when atoned through endless workshops and policy reversals, DA initiatives, those corporate albatrosses around the neck of Western innovation, to value meritocracy, the very engine that built prosperous, egalitarian societies, and replace it with equity quotas that reward grievance over genius. In tech firms like Google, this has led to the sidelining of high IQ engineers in favor of diversity hires, stifling the creativity that once propelled the Enlightenment forward. In academia, it perverts history itself. Curricula now portray the West not as a beacon of abolitionism, scientific revolution, and universal suffrage, but as an unbroken chain of oppression, myopically ignoring the billions lifted from poverty by capitalist enterprise. The peril deepens when we consider the children progressed and mothers, ensnared in this empathy trap, raise the next generation on tales of systemic guilt.